what felting involves. Like when you make a doll, everything gets felted in, i.e., not to be taken off ever again. So, I've got to live with this now. Cheers. Anyway, we're here with, you guessed it, another story. So, have a blessed weekend. This is not going to start you off on the right foot, but you make your choices in this life. And we'll talk to you another time. Toodaloo. Love you. Bye.
December 6th, the Rapscallion. No firewood left. A path of pastel sand and brightly colored shrouds. Like a vacation, a beach party. And then the pots tied to the banyan tree. The old ways don't work anymore. The Ganges rejects the bodies, washes them back to shore. Life after life, rebirth to rebirth. This is a body. This is a home. He knew her by her sweater. As he watches the makeshift funeral rites on television, half a world away on the 6 o'clock news, he thinks of her. He always does when he hears of death. That body on the beach was somebody's precious child. That body. That's how we describe a dead person. A body, a shell, an outline of a person. We don't think of the people who felt the warmth of that body, held her head up in the bath as a baby, held her hand as she took her first wobbly steps. We don't think of the person who lifted her up over his head to see her smile in the sunlight. It would be too difficult for strangers watching the news. It would be too difficult to accept death if we thought about the people left behind. Death from disease is sad enough. Death from violence, something else altogether. You want to see your loved one through a disease, even if it ends in death. You want to be there. A good parent wants to be there for all of the milestones. But parents never think they're going to have to watch their child die. That's not right. That doesn't fit. Parents never think they're going to find their child dead. Parents never think they're going to see their child killed, murdered. And the parents of the murderer surely never thought they'd raise one. You have to remember that too, on top of everything else you have to remember in your grief. Her little hands, her silky head. She was your first, and she delighted you with so many firsts. The first time you saw her laugh, the first big smile, those things made her real to you. Those things make all of us real. The first date, the first heartbreak, the first time she talked back to you, a shock to be sure, but it was all right. It was all right. And then that day, entering that building you'd entered so many times because that's where she was. That's where she studied and ate and drank and laughed and learned and was a grown-up. Your little girl, now a grown-up, making a career, making you proud, although, truth be told, you couldn't have been prouder of her than you already were. Then that day, heart choking your throat as you raced up the stairs and saw those bodies scattered throughout the hallway and classrooms, those shells of precious children, and she couldn't possibly be one of them. She could not possibly have been there. But she was. She was lying there at the end of the hallway. At first you didn't know it was her. No one would have been able to tell. And then you saw it. The sweater she'd worn only a few nights before at a dinner with you. 23 years of dinners and birthdays and Christmases and Easters and summer vacations and heartbreaks and laughter and fights and you being her dad and she being your daughter. And in the end, you knew her by her sweater. Now at this point, so late in life, so long after the tragedy, it makes him sigh more than it brings him anguish. Now sitting in his living room and watching a tragedy unfold 2 oceans away, where the dead cannot have the dignity of a traditional burial, he thinks of those bodies and of who they left behind to try and fix things, try and make sure the spirit goes where it needs to go, and everything after that. He sees in the little footage there is a tiny girl on the beach, sitting on her knees by one of the shrouded bodies. She is maybe 4 or 5, and she is tiny. Everything about her in this brief appearance is tiny in a way that will always be tiny. She will be 40 years old, and still she will have tiny legs and hands and little elfin features. She turns her head to the camera suddenly, and what a look she gives to it. Get out of my funeral. Get out of my grief. And she hurls a handful of sand.